Good evening. How's everyone? Well, I thought I was going to watch an apology, but ended up I just watched a pity party. So, what else did we figure from a narcissist? I've seen my name a lot too. Moxley's evil. He already's been on talking about the Watts case today, and hell, I ain't even been on YouTube today. It's my first time. But good evening, everybody. I am going to try to do a little bit of Patreon tonight after this, just to kind of check it out, make sure everything is running smooth. Now, he was on YouTube for about 20 minutes doing a poor, pitiful me routine. Yeah, my name got mentioned a bunch. I'm evil, they said. That Moxley's evil. We're going to report every one of his videos every day. Good. That'll just show you harassing me. Man, my fingers itch. Well, you don't need a code, JoJo. What you'll do is after I go off here and go on Patreon, I'll make a post in Patreon and it'll have a link with it. And you click on that link and it'll take you to the video. That's how it works. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jody, Tammy, Susan, Crystal, Gusinta, Tammy Page. Slow mode is on, I remembered. I put a little note up on my computer so I never forget it. And also, I've probably been registered somewhere. Yeah, if they think I'm evil, they must not know what evil is. That's all I got to say. I'm good, Julie. How about yourself? How is everyone? Okay, so what I want to go over tonight is a few days ago, a lady messaged me. I don't know if she wants me to give her full name, but her name's Carrie. I'll just call her Carrie. And what happened was her son was murdered, and they know who did it and everything. She just wants her son's story told because no one's really told it. So it's a sad story. It really is. His name was Branden Geoffrey Roth. He was a young guy. He was in jail. He wasn't like on a big felony charge or anything like that, but he was in jail. So let me give you a little bit of information on it. Then I have a video from the news about it. Give me a second here to get this opened up. Okay, he was waiting on being sentenced for a felony charge. So what had happened was the guard this was the Pima County Jail. And I believe that's in Arizona. Let me find out real quick because I don't want to tell you wrong. Yeah, it's in Arizona. So the Pima County Jail's in Arizona. A guard had called in that night, so there was one guard covering. He was basically doing double duty. And what happened when the guard at the Pima County Jail, he found Branden Roth. He was lying on the floor of his cell, covered in blood. Hang on a second. Trying to get this over here where I can still see the chart. And it doesn't look like I can do that. His cellmate, King Yates, was lying on the bottom bunk with blood on his pants. He ignored the guard's first 2 orders to step out of the before calmly getting up and walking out of the cell. Headphones lay on the bed. Under the bed was a red sock full of batteries. That was under King Yates' cell, a sock full of batteries. Roth was 24 years old, and he was awaiting sentencing on a felony theft charge. And he was pronounced dead at 10:12 a.m. on April 19th, and this was back in 2017. He was found in a pool of blood, his face covered in lacerations and bruises. He had what looked like defensive wounds on his hands and marks on his neck where a cord had been tightly bound. The autopsy would later show that bones in his neck were fractured. He had broken teeth. His jaw was dislocated. Official cause of death was strangulation. King Yates, 23, is now facing charges of first-degree murder for Roth's death. Likely to go to trial in Pima County Superior Court later this year. Like I said, this was back in 2017 when this came out. After pursuing the death penalty, Pima County prosecutors changed course after evidence surfaced can't talk tonight, that Yates, who was already facing charges of shooting his wife in the head, had not been receiving the dosage of antipsychotic medication that he was previously court ordered to take. Wow, so he hadn't been getting the right amount of his antipsychotic medication. The only thing I want to do when I get out of this is start over. Well, I'm going to stop talking about this stuff about being in jail because it's making me cry. I realize I can't hug you guys, and it sucks coming to this realization, but I put myself in this situation. Mom, you were right. That's what Roth wrote to his parents in a 2015 letter. It says the police were waiting for Carrie Walker when she got to work. They asked her for a private place to talk. Carrie, a 49-year-old elementary school custodian, led the officers to an empty room. They told her that her son had passed away in jail and warned her not to watch the news. She went out to her truck and found the articles on her phone. She drove home, and that's all she remembers from that day. Almost 9 months after Roth's death, Carrie's still numb. She spends a lot of time at home with her husband, Rodney Walker. Photos of the then smiling line shelves next to recently emptied ashtrays, carefully tended plants, and photos of her handsome young son. They say I'm still in shock and I've got PTSD and all this other crap, Carrie says. But I've got to fight for Branden now. I want people to know Branden wasn't the inmate, the criminal. He was a great person. Carrie turns the pages of a baby book she carefully filled with notes and photos over 20 years ago. He's gone, but it doesn't seem real, she says. She said Roth and his sister primarily on her own. She raised Roth and his sister primarily on her own. But Carrie's father, Joe Jensen, was Roth's best friend growing up. He picked Roth up from school every Friday. He took him to construction sites where he worked as a plumber, and Roth wanted to be just like him, calling to say goodnight every evening. On one Friday, when Roth was 13, Carrie picked him up instead of his grandfather. At 49, Jensen had had a massive heart attack at work and died. Man, that's sad. Branden just fell apart, Carrie says. He was really never the same after that. He wanted to be with my dad. For a time, she worried Roth was suicidal. But when Carrie met Rodney a year later, Roth's adoration for his grandfather transferred. Everywhere Rodney went, Roth was at his side. Rodney remembers the first time they met. He just ran out the door and introduced himself, and ever since they were close, Rodney says. Ever since then, we did everything together. They watched movies and played video games. They went to church some Sundays, and Rodney taught Roth to fix cars. So Roth started fixing all of his friends' cars, but usually had to call Rodney to come save him, elbow deep in grease and oil. More than anything, Roth loved his dogs, Bonnie and Clyde. And when they died, he held on to their ashes, waiting for the right time and place to scatter them. Roth was a kid who made his mom pull over when they saw roadkill so he could bury it. As an adult, he cleaned house to Abba's Dancing Queen. He went antiquing and bought little gifts for his mom. But what his mom misses most is the way he smiled with his eyes. Another letter to his parents, he writes, I love you both so much. You mean the world to me, and yes, I've learned my lesson. No more dumb stuff. Roth's first serious brush with the law came when he was 19 years old in July of 2012. He and a few other guys robbed a house. They stole jewelry, electronics, and 3 cars. Rodney and Carrie say Roth got involved at the behest of his then-girlfriend. When he was arrested at an apartment building the same day of the crime, he was with a girl who knew the homeowners and knew they were out of town. He spent 2 days in jail, then didn't show up for court. 4 months later, a warrant was issued for his arrest. On December 13, he called his mom from Pantano Baptist Church. He was turning himself in and wanted to tell her goodbye. When the police came, he asked them not to handcuff him in front of his mom. They agreed. As Carrie watched them take Roth away, she experienced that surreal feeling that's become her new normal. It just didn't feel real. Roth pleaded guilty to felony burglary charges and spent 2 months in jail. During this time, he got closer to his parents. They visited him every weekend and wrote letters to the judge on his behalf. He was sentenced to 5 years of probation, but he just couldn't keep it together. He violated his probation multiple times, failing to take required drug tests, pay fines, and meet with his probation officer. After doing additional jail time for these violations in August 2014, his probation was revoked and he was sentenced to time in state prison where he would spend 1 year and 3 months. Once he got sent to the Florence state prison, he didn't want his parents to visit him. Especially, he didn't want Rodney to see him like that because he knows he disappointed Rodney, Carrie says. That was the worst thing to him because Rodney was so much like my dad. But Roth wrote both of them dozens of letters. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm going to start this off by saying I'm sorry. It was my mistake, and I have to live with the consequences. You guys mean the world to me. When you came and visited me, it made me so happy. I appreciate everything you guys do for me. You helped me so much. I hate that you guys have to see me in here, and I'm sorry for it. Roth's 2015 letter to his parents. Carrie used to worry about Roth, but after he got out of Florence in November of 2015, she believed he was going to be all right. Roth started dating Sydney Osment soon after. A few years older than him, she came to the relationship with her own host of problems. 5 months in, she got pregnant, and within a month, their relationship fell apart. Roth and Osment didn't see each other much after that, but he never stopped talking to his mom about his soon-to-be-born son and how much he wanted to be in his life. Carrie and Rodney sold Roth a 95 Kia Sophia on a payment plan. Rodney put it in a good word for Roth at a brake max where he worked, and they hired Roth as a mechanic around October 2016. A month later, Rodney's boss told him Roth stole an expensive diagnostic tool, a relatively small tool that could easily fit in a backpack. It was worth thousands of dollars according to court documents, but Rodney estimates it closer to $300. Roth pawned it that same day. USA Pawn gave him $200. He showed them his ID and scanned his thumbprint. Carrie and Rodney have no idea why Roth did it. They were both mad. Carrie said she and her son needed a cooling off period. They weren't speaking much. But on March 26, 2017, he texted her, "Just wanted to let you know you're a grandmother." Osmond and Roth hadn't spoken. No one understood why Roth sent Carrie that text. Osmond went into labor 2 days later and gave birth to their son. It was April 7th when Roth pleaded guilty to trafficking and stolen property and entered Pima County Jail to await sentencing. He was placed in a cell with King Yates. 12 days later, he was dead. He never met his newborn son. Yates was brought up by his great aunt at the end of a partial cul-de-sac on Tucson's southeast side. His mom went to prison outside Fresno, California when he was 2 years old, and his father was in Inglewood, California, according to court records. At 15, he was charged with a misdemeanor assault. By his 18th birthday, he had additional run-ins with the law for drugs and possession of a firearm. When he was 18 in 2012, an ex-girlfriend and mother of his child successfully filed a restraining order against him. 2 years later, he attacked another ex-girlfriend. She told police he hit her several times in the face and cut her with a butter knife. He was charged with a misdemeanor assault. Yates married Cassandra Shaler in September 2014. In the 3 months that followed, police responded to at least 3 times because of his violence towards her. He yelled at her, slapped her, pulled her hair, pushed her, and threatened to shoot her in front of his sister, her grandparents, and strangers who all felt compelled to call for help. In November, he was arrested at a Motel 6 after staff called the police because they heard fighting. Police found bundles of cocaine, heroin, and meth, as well as a 9mm handgun. He was arrested, and the state recommended a $10,000 bond, noting he had a history of violence, drug use, and prior felony convictions. King Yates, 2 days later, he was released on a $5,500 bond. Cassandra had secured his bond with titles from both of their vehicles. In March of 2015, his charges still pending, Yates showed up at a hospital, Cassandra by his side, saying he had been poisoned. He wouldn't let his wife out of his sight, even to use the bathroom. She had bruises on both arms and legs and was noticeably scared. When the attending nurse got a chance, she asked Cassandra if she was all right. Cassandra said Yates accused her of poisoning him and hit her in the head and stomach. He had restrained her and said, "I could kill you." Police later charged him with misdemeanor assault and domestic violence. Because of Yates' behavior, the courts asked for an examination of his mental condition. In regards to his pending charges related to drug and firearms, court records say Yates was in denial of mental health issues, that he had been exhibiting paranoia, and that his state had deteriorated drastically since his arrest at the hotel. He believed the government was spying on him, trying to poison him. He said neighbors were replaced with government agents sent to spy on him, as well as cashiers at stores he frequented. He started taking their pictures when they expressed disapproval. This reinforced their guilt in Yates' mind. He saw spies everywhere. While driving, he saw middle-aged white men pull up next to him and stare. While taking classes at Pima Community College, young white women who spoke with him were also spies. He also thought they were in the KKK and sending him subliminal messages. He said they were poisoning him via Papa John's pizza, which had prompted him to go to the hospital in March, carrying a Powerade bottle filled with his own urine, asking it to be tested for arsenic. In April, Yates wrote a letter to a judge involved in his pending case. "I'm writing you this letter because I'm concerned for my life," he wrote. "Due to the felonies that are involved in my case, the United States government has been trying to kill me." On May 4th, Yates didn't show up for court, and a judge issued a warrant for his arrest. 3 days later, he dropped Cassandra off at the hospital. She had a stab wound in her neck. She told police she'd been sleeping in her car and woke up to a stabbing pain. Yates was in the driver's seat, knife in his hand. She remembered him saying, "You tried to set me up. You tried to kill me." She begged him to hide the knife and take her to the hospital. After her wound was bandaged, Cassandra told police her husband had been acting crazy for a year. She said he had been petitioned to Keno Hospital, where the Crisis Response Center said they wouldn't release him until he was medicated, but that hospital staff didn't follow through. 2 days later, Cassandra called them, backing away from her original statement with the claim she remembered new details. Yates had been cutting something and his hand slipped, slicing her neck. It was an accident, she said. Yates was never charged. The sheriff's department did look for Yates after this incident, including going to the homes of family members, but they were unable to locate him. He was arrested for the bench warrant in June, and the courts proceeded with the mental examination. Dr. Michael Christensen evaluated Yates and diagnosed him with bipolar 1 disorder versus schizoaffective disorder with narcissistic personality traits. The courts ordered Yates to take 700 milligrams of Seroquel to control psychosis. Christensen said the medication was essential in sustaining competency to stand trial. Yates pled not guilty to the felony charges for drug sales and possession of a firearm. At his request, he switched public defenders several times and was denied the request to represent himself. In September of 2016, after almost 15 months in jail and 1 mistrial, a jury of his peers found Yates not guilty of all charges and he was released. 2 months later, on the evening of November 20th, Yates and Cassandra went to a friend's apartment on the east side. The friend got a call and went into her bedroom, leaving them in the kitchen. She heard a bang that sounded like a balloon popping. She ended her call and listened at the bedroom door before she opened it and was face to face with Yates. When she started to walk into the hall, he said she might not want to do that. Cassandra was lying on the floor. There was blood on her head. The friend asked Yates if he had hit her. Then she saw blood under Cassandra and the gun in Yates' hand. Do you know how long she's been trying to kill me? Yates asked the friend, wiping down the gun. According to her statement to police, she added that he wiped down other things he had touched. He took her phone and deleted content from when he'd used it earlier. She asked him to leave and called the police. Police apprehended Yates early the next morning, sleeping in a vacant apartment down the street. They brought him to the Pima County Jail, where he would eventually end up in a cell with Roth. On the morning of Roth's murder, an officer at the Pima County Jail had called in sick. The corrections officer on duty, Jay Montreal, would have to keep watch over twice as many inmates. Jail policy states that 2 housing units or pods may be monitored by 1 officer making rounds that don't exceed 30 minutes. Montreal conducted his regular rounds to check on inmates as close as possible to that time frame due to all the other tasks he had to perform between pods, according to a sheriff's department report. Apart from his rounds, Montreal had to prepare 9 inmates for a trip to the medical unit. He opened their cells, gathered them in the day room, and Pat searched them. He brought them to the Sally Port for transfer to the medical unit and prepared their lunches. He had to do it all, didn't he? When he returned to the cells, he looked into cell 24 and saw a bloodied Roth lying on the floor. I want to show you guys how much I appreciate all you have done for me. I love you guys. Never forget that. I hope you guys can forgive me, Roth wrote in a 2015 letter to his parents. Osmond found out about Roth's death 2 weeks later on the news. She immediately found Carrie on social media. Carrie had been stalking Osmond's Facebook page, poring over pictures of a baby identical to photos that filled the pages of Roth's baby book. Same face, same expressions, same little pointy ear. This Christmas, Carrie and Ronnie stayed in, just the 2 of them. They opened gifts and watched Christmas movies. She made her grandmother's omelet recipe, green pepper, onion, milk, and sugar. They celebrated with their grandson 2 days earlier at 9 months old. He was too busy with his fire truck to pay attention to their adorned little tree, pile of ornaments, and strands of shiny beads. Rodney had planned to adopt Roth this Christmas and give him the last name Walker. They took that all away from me, he says. With time, it doesn't really matter. We must learn to live with it. They spend a lot of time with their grandson. Osmus brings him over on weekends, and sometimes he spends the night. After Roth died, Carrie went to the funeral home. They wouldn't let her see his body. The mortician told her there was a mark around his neck. Then I read the autopsy report, and I was glad I didn't see him for that to be my last memory of my son, she says. People like Yates live forever. They do. People like Branden apparently don't. In November, Carrie filed an $11 million claim against the county. I don't know who I blame more, if I blame the sheriff's department or I blame Yates. Carrie says, I know for a fact his death was preventable. No one can ever tell me different. At the time of Roth's murder, the jail was only giving Yates 225 milligrams of Seroquel, although a year and a half earlier, the doctor who had evaluated him said that he would need 700 milligrams of Seroquel, essential in order for Yates to maintain competency to stand trial. The day after Roth's death, jail staff increased Yates' medication to 400 milligrams. Medication and dosage of inmates at the jail are determined by medical professionals with the outside healthcare agency, Correct Care Solutions. Jim Chaney, spokesman for the agency. Well, anyway, basically what happened here is this guy Roth, Branden Roth, he was in jail waiting charges for felony theft. And this guy, King Yates, was in there with him and beat him to death with a sock full of batteries. He had been court ordered to take 700 milligrams of Seroquel and was only taking 225. And like I've told you guys before, I've been in jail, and I'm telling you right now, jail staff does not care whether you get your medicine or not. They care less. If you ask them for a dose of your medicine, they act like you're aggravating them. They don't want to fool with it. So his mother messaged me the other day on Facebook and asked me if I would read that to you guys about what happened to him. And, 24 years old and gone. And he never got to see his newborn son, not one time. He had just been born when he went in. So anyways, I found this video on YouTube of the story of it, so I'll let you watch it, and then we'll talk about something.
New at 6, did short staffing in the Pima County Jail figure into the first inmate killing there in 35 years? A man already charged with murder is now charged with killing his cellmate last month. As 9 News Live's Craig Smith reports, the Sheriff's Department investigation shows the corrections officer watching the cells was carrying twice his normal workload the day of the killing.
Video from the jail surveillance system shows corrections officers responding to an apparent beating that became a death. 24-year-old burglary suspect Branden Roth was dead, found in a pool of blood. King Yates was the only other man in the cell. He was awaiting trial on charges of killing his wife. The report says it took 3 orders to get out of bed and out of the cell before Yates complied and was arrested for murder. Some inmates told investigators there was no particular tension in the collection of cells called a pod, but others called King Yates aggressive and confrontational. The report makes it clear supervision for the pod was not as tight as usual. According to investigation records, a corrections officer would normally check each cell in his pod every 15 minutes. A standard pod holds 36 two-person cells with a total of 72 inmates. But the day of the murder, the officer in charge of the pod that held King Yates and Branden Roth was checking cells every 30 minutes. Another officer had gone home sick, so the corrections officer was asked to do double duty and cover twice as many cells, 72 cells with as many as 144 inmates. And he was doing those checks along with other tasks like moving inmates for medical treatment. Craig Smith, KGUN 9 on your side.
So they had two people in there, and he beat him with a sock full of batteries, and then the official cause of death was strangulation. Go ahead, Stacy. What do you got? So what do you guys think about even the corrections officer was making lunches. I could only go so far, so I couldn't really see what happened. Man, that's just a sad story right there. I got something in my eye earlier. I think I got soap under my contact. That's why it was hard for me to read that. Well, where did he get the batteries? That's a good question. Where do you get a sock full of batteries in jail? Because you don't have remotes to the TV. And so it's hard to say. But I will say this. The time I was in jail, I do know that they would get batteries and stuff to run those little motors to do tattoos and things like that. And I'm sure you can get anything in jail you can get on the street. It's just going to cost you a lot more. Now, they don't have remote controls in jail, not the one I was in anyway. They might in some, but not the one I was in. And that was in Arizona, and it happened back in 2017. And I think she said, let me check something here. I think she said they had a court hearing this morning that he was determined he could defend himself. So let me find this. See what the thing said. Yeah, she wrote me this today. She said, we had a hearing this morning. A trial date was set for Cassie's trial, his estranged wife that he murdered, and it was ruled he's competent to represent himself and to stand trial in both premeditated first-degree murder cases. Until today, the judge had ruled that his competency is in question for the millionth time because the jail is poisoning him again. She says you can find that BS on YouTube. She says, so now we're absolutely no closer to either trial dates because apparently in Arizona, the killer has more rights than the victims. Seem to be nothing more than evidence, and their rights died when they did. She said, thank you so much from a mom that has been trying to keep the focus on the victims and off the killer. It was easier said than done. So apparently it's still not gone to trial. Apparently he's telling the judge that the jail is poisoning him with jail food, which I'll say jail food's pretty bad. But so this guy sounds like he, really needs mental health treatment, and he shouldn't have been in a cell probably with anyone. Yeah, Ted Bundy represented himself. That's right. Are you doing the? We have been talking about the Daybell case, Paige, a little bit here at a time. Yeah, there's too many drop balls in this case. From the lack of meds, access to batteries, a busy guard. Just like what now says, he should have never been given a cellmate. He should have been isolated to himself. And had he been isolated to himself, this Branden Roth would still be alive. And she filed an $11 million lawsuit against the city or the county or the jail. I didn't see anywhere if they said that she had won that case or if it was still ongoing. You can buy them commissary that they're trying to do without them, but you can take them away from inmates. But okay. Yeah, but the thing about it is with lawsuits like this, it's probably best if she goes ahead and settles out of court for a certain amount, because if they try to reach a decision and say, for instance, the city appeals it, the appeals could go on for years. So hopefully they'll make her a halfway decent settlement. And it's just, you wonder, how things like this happen. But there's so many things that contributed to this young man's death. Hello, Rain Dancer. So anyway, that mom, she wanted her son's story told. And I wish I hadn't been so stopped up telling it. Yeah, they said order today he was competent to represent himself. I did see that Frankie Rusek posted earlier that he says he's quit talking about the case. I guess we'll see. And I wrote him a message back saying he's not going to stop. He's just taking it to Patreon. Yeah, it's just a lot of things. And the sad thing is that bothers me is how the fact that he didn't get to see his newborn baby at all, not even one time. In the UK, life is 25 years. So apparently he murdered his either his wife or his girlfriend, shot her in the head with a gun, claiming that, she'd been trying to poison him. Just all kinds of, saying that his neighbors were spies for the government. And they were in the KKK and just different stuff. No respect for the family, just making his profit private behind closed doors. I feel the same way. I don't understand in America life is life not. The UK. Well, now sometimes in the United States, life doesn't necessarily mean life. It can mean 25 to life usually. A lot of times you're eligible for parole after 25 years with a life sentence. The weird thing about it is in some states, kidnapping is mandatory life sentence and murder is 25 to life. So you can get more of a sentence out of a kidnapping charge in a lot of states. Yeah, Arizona is where they had the tent city jail. And the sheriff used to say, if tents are good enough for our soldiers, they're good enough for inmates. Pretty scary to think a low-level inmate could have the bad luck to come across an evil inmate like that. It really is. Yeah, Tent City Jail was out in Arizona. They give the inmates, it was mostly men, they gave them pink underwear, pink socks. Yeah, Sheriff Joe Paterno. No, it wasn't Joe Paterno. That's the ball coach. Who was it? Arpaio, Joe Arpaio. That's it. I said Paterno. That was the coach at Penn State. I think I must be half brain dead tonight. I can't think of nothing. Why, oh, why, you have a picture. I heard they're making everybody start putting pictures on YouTube. Is that true? Joe Arpaio, Donald Trump gave him a pardon, didn't he? And has anybody heard from Wiltshire? We haven't seen him in a long time. I'm starting to worry about him. What happened to him? No, I'm not sick. I took a shower right before I come on, and I got soap under my contact, and now it's making my eyes water real bad, or one eye water real bad. And then I'm also getting stopped up because of it, because my eyes watering so bad. No, he hasn't moved on. He's just took it to Patreon. Damn, they called me evil and everything over there. They must not know me. I'm not evil. They said that I sick. They said in my chats that I sicked people on AD. I never sicked anybody on nobody. So they're just as delusional as he is. I seen an email where somebody in his subs said they're going to report every one of my videos every day. And that just sounds like harassment to me. Daniel Wiltshire left a comment just as your live ended. Oh, really? Oh, he must have left me. Oh, she must have left me. Oh, yeah, by the way, guys, my church video last night, YouTube pulled it and gave me a warning. It's just a warning. It only lasts for 1 week for graphic content. Said I can't show things like that anymore. And I didn't know. I put it on 18 plus with a warning on it. So I didn't know, that would happen. So anybody that went back to watch that video, they couldn't watch it. My orities are evil. They are, aren't they? So I guess it's 45 minutes. I guess I'll stay an hour and then probably go a half an hour to Patreon. If you want to join me in Patreon, join for $1 or more. You can join for more, but it's at least $1. I thank you guys. I appreciate that. Jay for Justice got hers pulled too. Yeah, that's where I originally saw the video at, was on there. I clicked on her because she was live at the time, and that's where I seen the video. Yeah, AD collected $220 tonight that I counted. So that was a pretty good 20 minutes. Any news on Elizabeth? Which Elizabeth? I don't know if people can get blocked on Patreon or not. I don't think so. Not about money for me, though, is it? Nope, sure ain't. Really not. I hopped on a little late, but Inside Edition did a story on Peyton Houston. Oh. Branden is a patron site like this. I've never heard of it before. Yeah, patron, it'll look exactly like this. What it is basically is I make a broadcast to YouTube that's unlisted. Nobody can find it. And then I copy the link and post the link in Patreon. And whoever's a member of Patreon clicks on the link, and they're the only ones that can watch my video. Yeah, the thing is there was people actually worried about him yesterday, and all that was nothing more than a fake. And everybody said, don't do it. Don't pay no attention to him. It's all a big ruse. Cat, I don't know. You probably need to go to your YouTube channel and edit your profile there. Sam, I heard there's no murder charge yet because they're still trying to determine where she was killed at. If she was killed in Austin or in Houston or anywhere in between. They want to file the murder charge in the correct jurisdiction. Tia, I'll put a link up on the page right now. So you see that scrolling across the bottom of the page? That's how you get it. The notification comes, Mary, right after this. You'll go into your Patreon, and what I'll do is I'll put a post up. And in that post, there'll be a link, and you click on that link. I think you can set it up, Mary, that you can get a notification by email, but I'm not. Ask Cassius because he said he got a notification by email. I love your channel, Braun, even though I have now received my only 2 nasty replies only on your channel. I always considered myself a nice, pleasant guy. I don't know who gave you a nasty reply, David. I hadn't heard anything about it. Cassius said he got an email and clicked on the link in the email and it took him there. Or he got an email and clicked on the link. Oh, thank you, Flynn Master. I love you too, buddy. That's a nice picture you got there on your profile, by the way. I'm dirt poor raising grandchildren, but I put out money because I believe in brain. Who's brain? I knew what you meant. Wow, I was just playing with you. You got everybody tore up that pic, Flynn Master. Hello, Diane. How are you guys? I couldn't stop staring at it, Sarah. It mind bended me. He's been mind washed. He's been mind bended. I know why I'm just playing with you. Yeah, most of the time they always do a not guilty in the very beginning. Flynn Master made Jody's eyes water. She liked what she saw. No, Humpy, not Humpty. Sorry. I've never been to England. Flynn says, sorry, guys. Sorry to disappoint. It's not him. Oh, and you could too. You know you're attracted to him. Cigarette break. I came to chat. A surprise super chat. Super chat. No, Dodie. Look, you see on the bottom of my screen where that banner's running across the bottom of it? You go to that site right there, and I think it defaults you to $5, but you can change that. No, Shane did not get charged. No, the girl's boyfriend did not get charged. Oh, well, thank you, Jen B. That's very kind of you. Let me go look. Elizabeth killed in a driveway. We weren't sure if the murderer was a man or a woman. Oh, Elizabeth Barraza. Okay. No, I haven't heard anything else about that. I need to look at that tonight, too. Glad you said that. Chris Green. No, Chris Green has not been charged. There was a fake arrest booking log going around for him, but it wasn't true. Yeah, you'll get an email and a notification from Patreon. That code you got was to join I made a Facebook Patreon page just simply for Patreon members only. Because I want to make it special for Patreon members. Since, you like pay a month. Trouble is Pat. Oh, rolling in with a 10 spot. Thank you, Trouble is. Thanks for being you, Ron. Well, thank you for being you, Trouble is. I can't believe they're blaming the daggone Rusek family after all the shit they put them through. Then they turn it around and blame it on them. That's what makes me angry. Yeah, Elizabeth was setting up for a yard sale. I'm afraid to show that video now because I'm afraid I'll get too graphic of another graphic warning if I show that video. 19-year-old girl in Missouri was found deceased this evening. Just too much. Ron, brain, don't forget us when you hit it really big. I don't know if I'll ever hit it really big. Yeah, Frankie's mom made a comment on his post, said she was proud of him. for taking that stand the other night. I know a couple of them emailed me today and said that after the stunt he pulled last night that they would no longer be a sub to his channel, because one lady was actually having a panic attack thinking he was going to commit suicide, and when she found out it was all a joke to him, she was pretty upset. Yeah, you can call me Brain if you want. Braun the Brain. What I should do is a parody of Armpit Detective in Patreon tonight of my apology. Just like he did. I think that's what I'll do tonight, if you guys want it. Or I tell you what do you guys in Patreon want me to do tonight? I don't know. What do I do for fun at home when I'm not live? Nothing really. I mainly work. Do YouTube. Just little things around the house. I'm 43. There ain't nothing I do fun anymore. I'm an old man. My fun days are over. There was a story from a town outside Baum last night about another abduction. Luckily, someone saw what was going on and was able to save her life. They cut her throat. Oh, my God. Dear God. Greene County, Missouri, missing since December 20th. That's my mom's birthday. That's the day that Peyton Houston went missing. Are you a pre-K teacher? No, I'm not. I am a single father. Ron, do you think he means I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again? Are you talking about Frankie Jr.? Am I a pharmacist? No, I'm not. What is this, 20 questions? I assume so. I will be big. I'm going to share. I'm going to share Peyton Houston's missing page again too, guys. Okay, so Carrie just sent me another message about Branden. It says, thank you, I'm watching now. Yates is representing himself. Checks were being done every 1.5 hours apart. Yates was in solitary but was moved because someone more dangerous came in. We're raising Branden's now 2.5-year-old son, and no, the lawsuit hasn't settled yet. So there's an update from Branden's mom on the case. Here is the link to Peyton Houston's Facebook page or missing page. Yeah, tomorrow. No, tomorrow. Well, it depends on where you're at. It's not New Year's Eve yet here. It will be in about 4 hours. And I think what I can do is when I go over to Patreon here in a minute, I'm going to make it where it's public. So I think you guys can just click on the link. And if you're not a member yet, it'll prompt you to become a yeah, I can send you a link, Jessica. Yeah, the link is in the description box, Jessica. Thank you, Jesse. I wasn't thinking about that. And a lot of people said, well, how do we know it's really him even after seeing the video? If you don't know that's him, then you probably got something wrong with your eyesight. Because you can see and hear it's him. Trust me, Jessica, I'm not good at this stuff either. It took me a while to figure it out how to do it. It's not really that, the chat's not really that fast tonight, so I guess I can just stay here. I'm not sure, Claire, if there's a Patreon app or not. You can do a lot more over on Patreon. It's not as strict as YouTube is. Ron, exactly. If people are mentioning that tonight, they're going, don't give it fuel. Okay. Sarah says there is a Patreon app. So did Avitello. Oh, yeah, there is an app. Duh, I've got it on my phone. I don't know why I said I don't know. Gosh, I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. Not being able to figure out the simple stuff we grew up with. Yeah, that's true. YouTube rules remain the same, but you also have Patreon rules. Okay. I am distracted. I don't think so. I thought further back when someone made a very offensive comment towards Braun. Braun was more inappropriate, but I guess what was that, Claire W? I must have missed it. No, we do. We normally go from one thing to another. We don't have a script. Not here. Flynn, what do you usually eat for breakfast? I don't eat breakfast. Never have. I don't eat anything till at least lunch, and sometimes I don't eat anything until dinner. No, I'm not even looking, Flynn Master. Dear God. I am real. All content, no drama. I stay in my lane. even though they say I don't. I know, I got to take that picture down. We'll have all the ladies going crazy in here. Yep, there was a life insurance policy that big. I am Coyote, but he had changed the beneficiary on it. It did not go to his widow. Moderate faster. You'd be perfect on keto. Oh, really? Well, keto's like a low carb diet, isn't it? What are you saying, Ange? I need to lose weight? Well, if it got left to them, maybe that's why they're missing. The parents are spending the money. It was the keto is basically meat and protein based diet. Okay. Maybe I do need to start eating keto then. I definitely don't want any of that kale stuff. Dear Lord have mercy. That stuff is awful. Why was I putting time out? I came here for some talk as I suffer depression and get put on time out because I asked if Ron was single. I don't know. If I get a thigh buster, I can be like Flynn. What's been happening a lot, Kelly? Keto is not good for people with high blood pressure or high cholesterol. Dorothy, if you're talking about Patreon, you can actually change the amount to $1. And Heidi Ho 4 says that AD got 74 patrons added today, now back to 541. Her questions are stupid. Yep, that's basically it. Lynn Live and Light, he's still making money off of it. He's just doing it privately now. Asking if someone is single, troublemaking, ? If, asking. And yeah, they have known for a long time, his subs, that they wanted him to stop. Yeah, and it was mainly poor, pitiful me for about 20 minutes, then about 1 minute that said it was a half-assed apology, in my opinion. So it was 20 minutes, poor, pitiful me, and about 1 minute of a half-assed apology. Can't we all just get along, guys? All right. I've been on for an hour 15. I think I'm only going to head over to Patreon for a little bit just to kind of check it out, give all you guys a look at how it works. So here in just a few minutes, just be looking for the link. And if you're not a member, you can join for as little as $1. So come on over. I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you, Michelle. I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. Love you guys. And if you don't come over, I'll see you tomorrow night.